My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave DeBow. And have you ever wondered how to crack the code in real estate investing success? Well, today, my guest, Justin, I'm going to take a shot at it, Cremer. He'll have to, a savvy investor with a knack for finding lucrative deals in SoCal and Central Florida. He's here to unveil the secrets behind mastering the real estate investing mindset, momentum, and networking. Justin, welcome to the show. Fantastic to have you here.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So did I get the last name right? Sometimes it's just
you absolutely nailed it. Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. I know. I get a lot. I get a lot of that. I get Cremer, but that's all right. It's how it's spelled. So I get it.
Awesome. Well, let's jump in. Could you share a little bit more about your approach to the whole acquisition / wholesaling in the real estate market? Because if you're on the acquisition side, chances are you're dispositioning a few of those because you can't buy them all.
Yeah. A lot of my strategy comes down to JVing. Like I do a lot, I do a lot of JV stuff. I've been in the business now for a few years, going hard for the last year and a half, really. And we focus on a direct to agent model. So It's all about building relationships with agents. In fact, I tell most people, like, my list is not a list of properties, it's a list of real estate agents.
Yeah.
And really it's just about having conversations, just like we were talking about, networking. It's about building relationships, building trust too, is a big one.
Trust that you can actually close.
Trust that you can actually close. That's exactly right. Well, yeah, that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Right.
Yeah.
Like the last thing you want to do is have a real estate agent send you something and then just ghost them. Right.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of that. So, but yeah.
I'm a big believer in it's like, instead of looking for properties on MLS, we're looking more about the people, the junk dealers, the people that are getting these things so we can access their marketing spend and really network with them, make your top 20 list and just call those people because you want to be top of mind. If you're top of mind, you're going to get that lead before the next person, because repeat business, that's like a realtor's dream. They're like, oh, I can just shovel this off to Justin and he'll get rid of 100%. It for me. So go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say the agents that I'm closest with, they know that if they send me something, I'm going to give them an honest answer. I'm not going to ghost them. I'm going to give them an honest assessment of the property, and I'm going to tell them straight up, what we can do with it. And for us, it really comes down to, partnering with people. Like, we don't need to make all the money, right?
Yeah.
It's really about, when you do direct to agent too, you're solving two people's problems. You're solving the agent's problem and the seller's problem, right?
Yeah.
So in order to build that relationship with the agent, I want to solve their problem first, right?
Yeah. I've got a property I can't move, or
I
don't want to necessarily list this thing. I'd rather just get rid of this bad, it's a hard property. I'll call Justin. He'll handle it. I won't have to actually go through the whole putting on the market and all that. I can just get rid of it quick.
Especially the tough problems, man. That's what we like. We like the tough problems.
Well, and it's, with calling the real estate agents and being that direct to agent, a lot of people don't want to do that. They're maybe they see the authority frame of agents. They build it up in their head, and they're forgetting, like, this is just, if you're a wholesaler out there, you could probably interchangeably be a real estate agent. So they're not that scary. Just call them up.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
Call them up. So what factors do you consider when you're evaluating potential investment opportunities in, say, Southern California and Central Florida?
Yeah, well, so they're so different. The two markets are so vastly different. All the way down to, the area, the market itself, the laws, So we do it kind of differently in both markets. For California, I mean, the plays that I've seen for the most part are either fixing and flipping,
Yeah.
wrapping,
Hmm.
and there is some of our buyers do buy and hold, but it's a lot more rare in California, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking for the distress stuff. We're looking for the distress stuff that we can get at a discount for our fix and flippers, right? I personally have not done any fix and flips yet. My goal is to do at least a couple this year.
Hmm.
But for the folks that I work with that do fix and flip, it just comes down to it's got to be the right price. It's got to make sense, right?
Hmm.
And in California, I think people are still they're finally starting to get the idea a little bit that prices have come down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are still addicted to those 2021, 2022 prices, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard, the deals in California, it really comes down to the numbers and the area, right? Because
Hmm.
if you look, for example, I do a lot of stuff in Los Angeles. I look a lot in Los Angeles. You can go one block up and pay 1.6 million for a property, go one block the other direction and you're paying 700,000, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of nuance. You got to just kind of be careful. It really depends on the area. And you know, the best way to learn for me, in my experience, was to call buyers, talk to buyers, talk to people
Yeah,
fixing
they'll
and
tell
flipping
you
in the
right away
area.
if it's
Oh
a
yeah,
deal, because they'll be like,
yeah,
nah, why not? It's too rich, too rich, doesn't make sense. I did one last year. I went sideways
yeah,
on it. Don't touch it.
yeah,
I'd have to be, they're gonna have to come down 300 grand. You're like, oh,
yeah,
wow, that's good to know. And then you go to the
yeah,
agent, you say they're gonna come down 300 grand, and they're like, no. And they're like, okay, well, not a deal then.
yeah,
What else you got? So
yeah. And
what about
for my
Florida?
Yeah, Florida, man, you could make your whole business in just like Tampa or Jacksonville. I mean, those markets right now are just super duper hot. A lot more buy and hold opportunities in
Yeah.
Florida, right? So we can underwrite for cash flow for buy and hold.
Hmm.
And I also find there seems to be in Florida, there seems to be more openness for creative as well.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing in California too, but in California, I see a lot of just people wanting to do seller financing, because they're just higher value properties, right? And so
Hmm.
usually the people that own those higher value properties understand the value of, doing a seller finance type of transaction.
Well, in the mortgage
But
that they have in place, right? Because you're gonna have to go back to the bank and say, "Hey, can I get 1.1 million at 7%, please?" And people are like, "Nah,
yeah,
I'm
right.
not so
No,
interested in 7%, but I'll buy your three and
that's
a
right.
half percent that you bought 5 years ago, and we'll
That's
just
right.
do that." So,
That's right.
Florida hasn't really seen that like price bump. They had a
No.
lot of immigration, but people seem to um, also, I think it's a cultural thing because there are a lot of mobile parks and things like that. Like
Yeah.
financing those are
Yeah.
traditionally seller notes and things like because the bank's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not going to put a mortgage on $150,000 trailer that's going to blow away next year. Like, not interested. So
Yeah.
it's a lot
Yeah.
of cash, a lot of seller financing, and I think people in
Yeah.
Florida kind of get that because the houses do blow away every 3 to 5 years. So,
That's very true. In fact, to that point, uh, we look in metropolitan areas. We
mm,
stay away from the super rural stuff.
yeah,
While there are potentially deals out there for certain investors, we stay away from that. Typically, we're staying near city centers, metropolitan areas, and we're
yeah,
also looking for properties that are, not wood frame. We stay away from the wood frame stuff for obvious
like
reasons, just
cinder
for what you
block
said.
construction,
Yeah.
slab cinder
Yep.
block. Yeah.
Yep.
Something that's going to still be there after the next hurricane rolls into town.
That's right. And something insurable. Insurance is becoming really difficult in
That's what I've
Florida. It's
heard.
getting
The
harder and
taxes
harder.
too. So how do
Yep.
you have that
Taxes as well.
conversation about the buy and hold numbers when the insurance is a challenge and the taxes are a challenge?
Yeah, at that point, it's really about shopping around. That I haven't solved that problem yet.
Yeah.
It's getting harder. It's getting
And I'm
harder.
seeing a lot of people prefer to flip in Florida because they're not
Yeah,
having to participate in the insurance and the taxes
yeah,
long term. They might have to like pay through the nose for 4 or 6 months and then somebody else's problem.
yeah.
So flipping in Florida
Well,
seems to be a thing, but buy and
it
hold,
is, in fact, yeah, it is. And I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. I
no.
apologize.
Hey, it's Zoom. It goes
Um,
back and forth.
Yeah, yeah. No, but you're absolutely right. I've seen a rise in fixing and flipping for those specific reasons, right? Because things just don't pencil. You add in the insurance and the taxes, and all of a sudden your wonderful cash flowing deal doesn't pencil anymore, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so there are things you can do, like making sure you're buying cinder block and cement slab properties, and making sure you're not in flood zones. We stay away from flood zones. And believe me, it's very easy to look at a deal like, wow, this is amazing, and overlook the fact that you're in a flood zone. And the whole fact that you're in a flood zone is going to mean your
Yeah. It's
insurance is going to
why.
be double,
Yeah. It's
triple
why
what
it's
you would
cheap.
want. Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
you look at Florida, like for all intents and purposes, the entire state is a flood zone unless you're like northern
Yeah,
Florida, because it could just
yeah,
roll in at any time. So
yeah,
tell me about the beginnings. Like, how did you get into real estate? What got you
man.
excited and ultimately made you take the plunge?
Yeah, it was for me. Decided about a decade ago, about 10 years ago, I decided, you know what, I really want to give myself a financial education.
Mm,
Like, I'm tired of not understanding totally what to do with my money.
yeah.
And so I started, I do what everybody does. We got on YouTube University, started meeting people, started listening to people's podcasts and whatnot. And what's crazy is, the longer you do a financial education, the longer you learn it about um the financial process and everything leads back to real estate. it's
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. All the wealthiest people in the United States own some form of real estate, for tax purposes, for
Mm-hmm.
generational wealth purposes, for you name it. It all comes back to real estate in one form or another. And so I inevitably found myself gearing towards real estate. And then luckily, I'm one of the fortunate ones. I found Pace Morby first,
Mm,
and I got into his mentorship first. I wasn't one of the unfortunates that spent 30, 40 grand on a mentorship that didn't lead anywhere. So I'm very fortunate that I found Pace, and Pace attracted me early on because, and I think this was actually when I first found him, I think it was 2020. So
mm,
he had literally just started his mentorship. I didn't join in 2020, but I was going to his free events. I was going to his YouTube,
watching YouTube. Yeah, that's
watching
where I
YouTube.
found them. Yeah.
Yeah, super interesting, and just amazed, just brilliant, right? Just the strategies were super interesting, and it got my attention. And I eventually joined his mentorship. And it's been going since then.
You know
So
what's interesting about the Pace Morby thing was at the beginning of his kind of exposure, people started noticing, but it was like maybe 2019 or 2020. And
mhm,
interest rates were at an all-time low. So it was like
mhm,
sub two,
mhm.
who cares? But
Yeah,
then
yeah,
it's almost like he was future that could see the future. Well, I mean, it could just be
yeah,
timing, but the market
yeah,
interest rate shifted, and now
that's
the
right.
bank is the second option for a lot of sellers,
Yeah,
where these 30-year notes are almost more valuable than the property, because you're able to say take over that. In California, you can walk into a great rate. If you go
mhm.
into Wells Fargo, you're probably not walking into a great rate. You're probably walking
No.
into something like 6 or 7%. So
Mhm.
um, are you using the sub two strategies? Are you putting together those notes and selling them? Is that what you're doing, or are you just putting the contracts together and moving those deals, or is it a combination?
Yeah, so with the direct to agent model, it's a little bit harder to find creative deals. But let's
Yeah.
just be honest. That really doesn't start happening with the direct to agent model that I'm using until
Mm,
you really build those relationships with those agents, right? The
yeah.
first few deals you want to do with an agent, they're going to be cash deals. Let's just be
Yeah.
honest, right? They're not going to trust you enough to let you talk to their sellers in that fashion, right? And
Yeah.
it
You
really
almost
comes
have
down
to
to
educate the
you
realtor.
have to
Yeah.
educate. It's exactly right. You have to educate but the realtor's not going to want to listen to you until they have a relationship with you, until they trust you, right?
Yeah.
And
They're worried
and
about
and
getting
know
paid.
that yeah, it's exact. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They've heard this so many times. You're not the first investor to call them and propose creative. You're not the first investor to call them and say, hey, let's lock this up at this price, and then not perform, right? It
Yeah.
happens all the time. And I don't blame them for being fed up with it, quite honestly. There's a lot of people doing this business that honestly don't know what they're doing. Let's
Well, it's like
just,
every
you
time the
know,
seminar rolls through town, they get a bunch of people on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday circuit. They bought
yeah,
some stuff and they start calling realtors on Monday, Tuesday, and every realtor's in town's like, oh, the seminar was in town because everybody's trying to
yeah,
find, do you got any deals?
yeah,
Hey,
right.
Justin, you got any deals?
That's
Uh,
exactly right. That's exactly
not
right.
for you, not for you, sir.
No, no.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about mindset.
Mhm.
How important is mindset for achieving success in real estate investing?
It's equally as important as networking. If the well, I put networking and building relationships right at almost mindset's almost a little bit more important than that, right? But they're basically, in my view, they're right at the same level of importance. Mindset's everything, right? It really is, and I'm going to be honest. My mindset when I first started, I didn't really believe that I could do this. I really didn't. I wasn't sure, but I did it anyways. You know, you go down a path, you don't know where you're gonna end up, but um, adjusting my mindset and really finding patience. You know, people
Hmm.
talk about a lot of things with mindset, but I don't hear patience be brought up very often.
Yeah.
And if you really do, the real estate game is a long game.
Well, we
It's
hear
That's
we
why I
hear
like it.
scaling all the time, scaling up,
Yeah,
scaling
yeah,
up.
yeah,
But what
yeah,
about the
yeah,
patience? Because
exactly. You
there's
got to
the
be
whole thing
ready.
about the deals too, right? There's um bad deals. Like it's not about the deals you do, but maybe the ones you don't that can have a
Yeah,
successful career. So the patience like you're
absolutely.
talking
That's a
about.
really good point. That's a really, really good point. It's more important. It's just like, I'm going to quote Hugh Hefner here. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality.
Yeah,
Right. And it's true that the stuff you don't do is way more important than the stuff you do, right? The stuff you say no to, because you're going to say no way more often than you say yes. At
well,
least you
and you
should
end up
be.
spending your energy. Like, let's say you're a flipper and you're taking
Yeah.
on a deal for something to do. Well, that's a bad reason to be
Yeah.
flipping a house. A good reason is that you're going to make money.
Yeah.
A bad reason would be like something to do. So when you look at, mindset and things of that nature, what strategies do you employ to maintain momentum and stay consistent with your business endeavors?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do a lot of different things, and everybody. Let's just be clear. Everybody's different.
Hmm.
Everybody's different. I hear a lot of people getting frustrated. People get to right here. They get to the almost to the summit, almost right there where
Hmm.
they're going to get their first deal or where they're going to close that deal or whatever, and then they quit and they start something else because it looks easier. And the
Yeah.
reality is, if you just kept going and stayed focused, you would have gotten there, right? And for me, it's been a lot of meditation, a lot of affirmation. And I know these things get thrown around a lot, right? It sounds corny at this point. Like, oh boy, do your morning affirmations and everything. But it really is it's that and finding a balance with work and life.
Hmm.
For me, that's really the big one for me, is finding that balance, because if all you're doing all day is on the phones and just solely focused on work, you're gonna burn out. You're
Yeah.
gonna burn out. So for me, yeah, for me, a lot of it, believe it or not, I actually, and this is gonna sound a little crazy, but hypnosis therapy. I don't know if you've ever been through hypnosis therapy before, but that stuff works
Hmm.
100%. Um, in fact, I still go to a mentorship. The guy, his name's Dom the Hypnotist. If you guys don't know who Dom the Hypnotist is, go check him out. It's legit. It really
So
is legit. And I was super skeptical.
well, I mean, no one wants to like cluck like a chicken on command, but
No,
what
no, no,
what is
no.
it that, what's the promise and what's the deliverable on something like that?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, hypnosis, we go through hypnosis and we don't even know it. Have you ever been working on something and you look at the clock and it's 8 a.m. and then all of a sudden 4 hours goes by and it's you know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
4 hours later, you're looking at your clock, you're like, whoa, what just happened? That is a form of hypnosis. That legitimately is a form of hypnosis. Okay. But the promise is your subconscious mind, we hold a lot of stuff in our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
from traumas to our childhood to all the events that happen to us. And our subconscious mind is a primeval part of our brain,
Yeah.
right? And its sole purpose is to run all of the functions that keep us alive, right?
Breathing,
Breathing,
eating,
automatic actions. Yep.
reproducing,
Yeah.
the reptilian brain.
The reptilians, that's exactly right. So that part of our brain's sole purpose is survival. And so these beliefs, these things that you do, these habits you get into are all manifesting from the subconscious mind.
Hmm.
And that's why we in our frontal cortex, our conscious mind, sometimes there's no correlation. We can't find the correlation for why we think a certain way or why we do a certain thing. And it's because those two parts of our brain couldn't be further from each other, right? The frontal cortex is the newest part of our brain. The subconscious, or I always forget the name of it, but the back part, our subconscious brain is the oldest part of our brain, right? It's
Yeah.
and you get a
It's
lot of
like layered.
emotion back there.
There's like
Yeah,
three layers. There's like the reptilian, and then the mammalian, and then the like
yeah,
higher function one that's like doing math and
that's
operating
exactly right.
Zoom. But like
Yep, that's exactly right.
breathing isn't something we're like, okay, take a breath. Okay,
Yeah, you wouldn't want
we're
to
not actually
consciously think
doing
about.
that, right?
Yeah, right, right.
But
Yeah,
that's where our desires and our functions, and usually they're driving from that lower thing all the way up. But
yep,
these things, lions and tigers and bears, like we're not hiding and fighting these things anymore, but our brains are still
yeah,
um, in constant like, oh, I'm afraid of this. But the things that we're afraid of aren't usually things that can hurt us. Like, oh, I'm afraid to make an offer. Well, what's gonna happen? You're gonna
that's
make an
100%
offer
right.
and
Yeah,
you're gonna get rejected,
yep,
big deal. Get
yep,
rejected, man.
yep. Or you have to cancel the deal. Like, yeah, no one likes
Yeah.
canceling the
No
deal,
one likes to,
but it's
no
not
one
the end
likes
of the
to,
world.
yeah, there'll be another one. So,
Yeah.
um, I've got here on the lists something. Could you walk us through your successful creative real estate deal in Austin, Texas?
Yeah, so this was, I mean, it's not a huge, big, gigantic deal. It's just a nice condo in a nice area. And the woman who owned the property, she was having some financial issues and was having trouble selling the property. She just unfortunately put it on the market one of the worst times to try and sell, right? When
Yeah.
interest rates have gone up and people are pinching their pennies. So we came in and offered her a solution, right? We'd offered her, not only are we going to be able to give you your price that you need to get, put some money in your pockets. It was going to cost her money to
Yeah.
sell this property. So she was a perfect candidate, right? So I purchased the deal, and it's going to be for me, it's going to be a great wrap deal, but it also cash flows. So it's sort of a win-win. Like I can go both ways with it. And it was my first real buying a creative transaction, right?
Mm,
And let me tell you, there are some very specific things that you have to do correctly with a subject to
yeah.
transaction,
Yeah.
um that I wasn't aware of. Like I hadn't thought of it. And yes, I'd been through Pace's instruction and a lot of his mentorship, but there's just things, and that's why you got to do it, right? You just have to do stuff,
Hmm.
right? But luckily I'm in Pace's mentorship. Luckily I've got a lot of really smart, amazing people around me. And so we did it right? We just did it right. And it's going to be one of those properties that I probably hang on to. I probably won't. I haven't quite decided yet. I think it's probably going to be a wrap. Um, but I'm still in that phase where I'm like, do I want to do that? Or do I want to just keep it? Right.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of where I'm at, but that's a good problem to have. You know what I mean? And so for
So
my first time out, yeah, it was a good deal.
yeah,
So,
there is, and I hear that a lot of time about sub two is like you can really, they're always warning you to say, look, you can really mess up someone's credit and things like that if you go into a sub two deal and you're not
oh
like
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah,
not steady enough to carry it. Like these
yeah.
people are coming with problems, and don't be another
Yeah.
one. Like just
Yeah,
be
I would
straight.
say something. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I know I keep doing that. So I'm gonna pass along something that I don't know if any of you guys know who Carolyn Kane is, but she's one of Pace's leaders. She's one of my mentors. And she said something really important the other day, and that is look, if you're struggling on paying off your credit cards and you've got a bunch of debt and all of that, you need to decide, do you want right now money or do you want passive long-term money? And we're talking about right now. What do you need right now?
Yeah.
And be honest with yourself. If you need a chunk of money right now so you can take care of debts, take care of all that, you should not be buying creative deals. Like,
No,
don't
that's
be
for like
buying creative
building a
deals.
pipeline, you know?
Yes, yes. And so you need to have some money in reserve. You need to be positioned to be able to take on that creative deal because stuff is going to come up. Like your problems don't start when you close, or your problems don't stop when you close the deal. Your problems start when you close the deal, right? So all kinds of stuff, anything and everything
Yeah,
will
the
happen in
condo
real estate.
boards come in for a reserve. The
Yeah,
roof needs to be
yeah.
fixed, and suddenly
Actually,
you're on the hook. There you go, right?
just to speak of that,
Windows, yeah.
yeah, right when I bought the property, the HOA raised the slab of the property, raised it because of previous rains in the area caused some flooding. So they raised it up about a foot and a half. I think it was about a foot and a half. But what do you think happens when they raise a condo building? Right? All
Cracking
cracks
all
in the
over the place.
drywall. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. So we had to be prepared for that. We had, this was just stuff that came up randomly, right? The person who, the woman who sold us the house, she didn't have a lockbox that she knew the code for, and we couldn't get a hold of the person who did know the code for the lockbox. So we had to go get the thing rekeyed. All of
Mm.
this stuff comes up, right? Oh, and just real quick, if you don't mind, I was talking about you got to do some very specific things with subject to, and I'm sure people who watch this are gonna be like, what the heck was he talking? What
What were
specific
the
things do you have?
things?
Yeah, tell me what the things were. So one of the absolute most important things is, yes, make sure you have money to be able to handle the problems that come up. If you're doing a subject to deal, you're getting into a relationship with someone. This isn't you're buying a property and they go away. Their name is still on the mortgage, right? You're going in and paying their mortgage. You're logging into their mortgage page and paying their mortgage for them, right? That's essentially what you're doing. So they are technically still on the hook if you screw up. But so those two things, you want to make that relationship and keep that obligation and make those payments. So you want to be positioned to do that. And then thirdly, probably the most important thing is you want to get the insurance part right. When you purchase a subject to property, I would say, I forget what the rule of thumb is, but it's not that long after you close. I would say, 3 to 4 weeks maybe, but you want to get your new insurance in there, right? But it's got to be done by a company or by an insurance company that understands how to do it, because you basically become, or you are the insured, but the mortgage company is the loss payee. So the insurance company or the mortgage company becomes the loss payee, and then you add the original seller as an additional insured on the property. That's super important. And that's because if you don't do insurance right, that's going to trigger the due on sale clause. That's which is, the bank's going to call you and say, we want all the money right now because we see
Yeah,
the
and you see that with sub two when people kind of, I guess the word is like flop on doing the sub two paperwork. The due on sale starts coming up. The mortgage companies calling the net because they're seeing some
yeah,
stuff change, and they're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
yeah,
We
yeah,
want you're gonna pay this mortgage out now. And it's like, okay, now
yeah,
you've triggered the whole thing. What are you gonna do
yeah.
about it?
Yeah, and look, the due on sale clause is not the end of the world. There are ways to handle the due on sale clause that will protect, that'll keep you in the property, that will protect your seller. So there are things you can do. Don't freak out if that happens, but you really want to avoid it if you can. That's the idea.
Yeah, that's the
And
ideal
then
thing.
yeah, and then also I would say for subject to really understand who the bank is, who's the original or who's the debt servicer, right?
Yeah.
Who's the servicing company that is managing the mortgage, because if it's a small bank, if the loan origin, I think it's the loan originator who originated the bank that originated the loan. But if it's a small bank, right, bottom line is, if you look at who's handling the mortgage, who owns the mortgage, if it's a small bank, they're more likely to call the due on sale clause on you because they're usually checking that stuff. Whereas Chase, Wells Fargo, they've bundled that mortgage up and sold it a long time ago,
Yeah.
right? So
So let's talk one, we're about halfway through or a little bit towards 3/4. Let's talk about networking. So how has
Mhm.
networking played a role in the success of you in the real estate investor community?
Man, well, me personally, I haven't even achieved the success that I want to yet. I'm getting there, but it's everything. Networking is absolutely everything. I'm gonna name drop, but if you guys don't know who JJ Azizian is, please go check him out.
Mm,
You don't have to be in sub two. You don't have to be in it. He's a force unto himself, but he's one of the absolute best networkers in the whole country. I mean,
mm,
just bar none. And go to his website. It's jjazizian.com and go check him out because in this business, like JJ always says, your network is your net worth. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
mm-hmm,
Um, I wouldn't have been able to do some of the deals that I have done, that I've been a part of, without the people around me, period.
mm-hmm.
So
So what are some tips for effectively building and nurturing those relationships within the real estate industry?
yeah, Pace always says don't be an ask hole, right? So
Yeah,
don't,
yep.
which I love that. There's nothing wrong with asking questions, but you don't want to just be calling people all the time and asking them questions, right? Bring something to the table, have something to offer. And if you're not sure what that is, if you're not sure what you have to offer, just offer time. Like, hey, let me help you do one of the functions of your business. What do you need help with in your business? Let me give some time to you for that, or anything, right?
Mm-hmm,
Don't call and say, hey, how can I bring you value? That's a lot of us, and there's a reason we don't like this, because we don't know like what we don't know how you can bring us value.
mm-hmm.
We don't
And
know enough about
I've heard a
you.
couple of big guys say that too, like
Yep.
figure it out, then come to the person. Because
Yes.
like they're
Yes.
busy doing their own thing. Like
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
knew, they would probably go and find it. So
Yeah.
like figure it out and then bring it.
Yeah. And I would say you need to have some self-awareness, right? What are your strengths? Like really understand, like, what are your strengths? What are you good at? Are you good at talking to people? Are you good at systems and integration? Are you a visionary? Like understand who you are, right?
Mm-hmm,
Pace has a great series of videos called the Avatar series. It's on YouTube.
mm-hmm,
It's a free
mm-hmm.
series. Go watch it and figure out where you fit in, because just like Pace says all the time, the biggest problem with real estate is there's a million different ways to make money in real estate, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to make money in this business, and you need to understand where you fit in. Like, where are your strengths? And once you understand that, networking gets really, really easy. I mean, it really does. It's you start having conversations with people, you understand where you can bring value to them before they ask you.
Mm-hmm,
But if you're not there, if you don't know what that is, if you're just not sure, come into JJ's group, come
mm-hmm.
meet people, just start talking to people and having conversations with people. Go to meetups, start meeting people. When I first started, the last thing I wanted to do was go to a meetup. Like, I'll just be honest, like, I did not want to go to meetups, but I go now when I have the time to go. I go now and I always have a good time. And I always meet one or two people that are, you know, worth millions, right? Let's just put
Mm-hmm.
it that way, right? Whether it's a lender or a transaction coordinator, or it doesn't even matter. You're going to meet people that are going to be valuable to you if you take the time to go out and meet people. So,
So what would you say your unfair advantage is? What comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
for me, it's definitely my outgoing nature and my
Mm,
ability to make friends with people and communicate and talk with people. But on top of that, I pride myself in my systems and integration ability as well. So I have a couple of things that I'm good at, right? I work my W-2, which I still have, by the way,
mm,
is in cybersecurity.
cool.
So I do that,
No
and I
shortage in
have
that.
that. Yeah, right. And so, but the problem with that is we're constantly busy, and I
Mm-hmm,
can't tell you on a day-to-day basis like what my schedule looks like, because I never really know, right?
mm-hmm.
So it makes it difficult, it makes it challenging there. But I'm getting to the point where I'll be able to eventually leave that business. And don't get me wrong, I love what I do. I really love
Mm-hmm.
what I do, but eventually, it's not gonna bring my family generational wealth. It's not gonna make me wealthy. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a W-2. A lot of
it's
them
gonna be a
aren't
W-2.
designed that way, right?
Right.
So, Any advice for people who are thinking about getting into the real estate investment field?
Yeah. Again, be consistent. Like get in
Mm-hmm.
there and focus on one thing. Figure out what that, I don't even care what that one thing is, even if it's just learning how to underwrite. Focus on one thing until you get really good at it. And then move on to the next thing that interests you. Don't be like everybody, and even like me, where you come in, you get shiny object syndrome, and you
Mm-hmm.
move to 20 different things and do half of 20 different things, as opposed to getting really
And
good
you're
and
like, why isn't it
sharpening.
working?
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't
People,
spend long enough to figure it out.
yeah, and again, that comes from experience. So please don't let yourself go down that route. Like get focused on one thing and focus on it for 90 days. And you're not consistent until you've hit day 91. And
Mm.
once you've hit day 91, you've been consistent for one day. And I'm stealing
Yeah,
that
that's
from
the
Pace. I
habit.
steal a
Yeah,
lot of
that's
things
the
from
habit
Pace.
forming
Yeah,
framework, right?
yeah, yep.
So if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more, what should they do? How do they find you?
Sure. Well, so I'm in obviously in Facebook. You can just find me Justin Cremer, Cremer. I have my picture is a big black and white picture. You'll see me.
Mm-hmm.
You can DM me there, friend me there. If you're gonna friend me in Facebook, send me a message first. I want to know who
Yeah,
you are. I don't just friend people. And then I'll answer all my DMs. So if you DM me on Instagram, my Instagram should be up, but it's at
yeah.
jkramer11. So you can hit me up there.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by and letting people know a little bit about what's going on in SoCal and Florida and the sub two community. And yeah, I really appreciate you
Absolutely.
stopping by.
Absolutely, man. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.